Upon completing my first video countdown about the worst games of 2015, I was asked by one of my friends about the game Sunset and why it didn't make the list rather than Osieri. Now, normally I would have just answered this question with a simple response and left it at that, but their question opened up another can of worms, and that can of worms was... Can a creator ruin their creations because of their attitude or actions outside of the creation itself? My simple answer to this would be no. But I find in this case this needs to be elaborated on because with the use of social media, any creator can express any opinion they want, for good or for ill. This leads to some game developers expressing extreme displeasure on their game's performance sales-wise or the reception it gets from the community. That's the thing about the internet, it gives everyone a voice, even when they're already screaming at the top of their lungs. Which of course brings us to Sunset, a game that focuses on a young woman named Angela Burns who is cleaning a mysterious man's house in the midst of a massive political revolution. The game is entirely story-based, and most of it involves you walking around and doing mundane tasks while listening to Angela tell the story of the game. It's a very niche game that not a lot of people had on their must-play list due to the very small audience it was marketing to. Because of this and some extenuating issues that are told differently by multiple sides, the game didn't sell well. Thus, Tale of Tales took to Twitter and said some very nasty things about the gaming community as a whole, hurling accusations about and leaving an extremely bad taste in many gamers' mouths because of it. This led to a lot of people hating the game in question without even playing it because of this abhorrent behavior on the developers' part. Full disclosure, I interviewed the developers, covered news when Sunset was going to come out, and reviewed it, following the review embargo and everything. I have both the DRM-free copy and the Steam copy, both of which were given to me by the developers. All of this was prior to the hullabaloo that occurred on Twitter. With all that said, I don't think Sunset is a bad game at its core. It's a niche game, it's a little on the buggy side, and it can be kinda boring, but I don't think it's a bad game. The mechanics are basic, but they're functional, the voice acting is superb, and the story, the main focus of the game, is in many ways very poignant. However, it is a game where you walk around, pick up things, and listen to someone talk for a couple of minutes or so, then walk away. Wash, rinse, repeat. It gives you something different each time, and it adds to the story itself. You can even get achievements for certain things you do. When asked why I didn't put this game on the list rather than Osieri, it's because that Sunset is a lot more mechanically sound and less obtuse on the way you go about things than Osieri is. Also, while it can be a bit boring at times, Sunset never disengages you from the world it creates like Osieri does with its jerky camera movements and its seemingly out-of-nowhere puzzles. Sunset never made me physically ill while playing it either, which is something that Osieri did. I didn't put this in my original video because I thought it was too much information, but Osieri made me very ill, to the point where I had to go lie down after playing it. The games both have complex stories, with Osieri's being more in line with Dante's Inferno or a cerebral journey through a man's views of morality, while Sunset is structured more like an intense historical drama like Atonement or any historical romance film that probably panders to the Academy. This brings us back to our question. Can a creator ruin their creation because of their attitude or actions outside of the creation itself? Well, perhaps a better way to ask this is, should an artist's work be judged with the artist's actions in mind, and if so, to what extent? This is a complicated question to ask because it tends to vary from person to person, and it's hard to say if there's truly a right answer. Should we condemn Fez because of Phil Fish denouncing Let's Players and sending out negative tweets? Should we allow Orson Scott Card's blog posts completely color the way we read his books, such as Ender's Game? These are all questions you need to decide for yourselves, but if you want my take on it, no, I don't think we should. I view the creator and their work as two separate entities, and unless they comment about the work itself or their creative process, everything they say on social media should be viewed as such. They might be a public figure now, but that doesn't change what their work is or what it means. I find being able to separate a creative work from their creator's views is a very important part of looking at media as a whole. Even in this new age of social media running rampant, to say you hate something all because the creator said something you didn't like means you might have missed out on something you might have truly loved. I know you can't separate the two completely, because in essence, the creator's bond to their work is always there, but trying to view them as two separate entities is vitally important in critically looking at art, rather than hating something you know nothing about aside from its creator's views. Of course, I'm not saying you should buy something if you don't want to support the creator. If you don't want to support someone because you strongly disagree with them, you're completely free not to throw any money at them. I'm saying you shouldn't hate someone's work purely because the creator and you have some disagreements on more of a personal level that doesn't come forward in their work. My final thoughts about all this. All because a creator does something you don't agree with doesn't mean that the work will necessarily reflect that. It can be hard to separate a creator from their work, especially if controversy arose from their actions, such as the case with Tale of Tales. However, if you say something is horrible all because they did something you don't agree with, that means you're not giving the work a chance to speak for itself, and that's something I just can't stand by.